Hey everyone, Mitch coming in from the Commander's Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So today's episode comes to you courtesy of my amazing patrons. Once a month, patrons vote on what commander they'd like to see in an upcoming episode, and the commander that gets the most votes wins. And for this month, well, the commander that got the most votes is Borborygmos and Fblthp. Yeah, that's right. This fantastic combination of a team-up commander is here, and oh my goodness, can you do some really exciting things with it. Now, on these deck techs, again, a reminder that every single card in the deck, unfortunately outside of this commander, it is $1.82 currently, though this set hasn't come out just yet, so it might drop underneath $1. Regardless, the rest of the cards in this deck are underneath $1, so it's a very budget-friendly deck, with an estimated cost according to Moxfield at $27.87. So yeah, it might be even less than that by the time this commander actually comes out. Regardless, let's talk about what this commander does and then what we want to do with it and the cards that work well with it. A 6/5 Cyclops Homunculus that costs 2 green, blue, red. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, draw a card, then you may discard any number of land cards. We discard one or more cards this way. Borborygmos and Fblthp deals twice that much damage to target creature. On top of that, you can pay 1 in a blue and put Borborygmos and Fblthp into its owner's library, third from the top. Now, I will say that that is a good desperation move to, get your commander out of there. Essentially, hey, if an opponent is going to try to Kenra's Transformation your commander or Imprison in the Moon or something that would make it difficult for your commander to, well, be your commander, yes, it's a good way to save it. And yeah, you could actually just put it back in the command zone if you are worried. That being said, it is not a foolproof way to save your commander because if you do that, well, your library is your most vulnerable spot, essentially, for your commander. If you choose to actually put your commander in your library and then an opponent Chaos Warps it, or Chaos Warps any of your things, I should say, you are forced to shuffle your library and you might not ever see your commander again. So I will just say that it is a decent way to save your commander, but also one that you need to be wary of. And of course, there are ways to draw into it again. You know what I mean. Regardless, what we're going to be doing is focusing, though, of course, on that ETB and attack trigger. It's fantastic. Hey, draw cards. That's some nice additional card advantage there. And then we can discard any number of land cards and then just ping something for a ton, twice as much as we're discarding. So basically, well, yeah, we can take our opponent's creatures out with this. And of course, there's some sneaky things that we can do with this for our own creatures as well. We'll get to that here in a bit. But yeah, on this episode, I'm going to be taking you through different tactics, show you how this deck works and how we're going to win with it. And of course, if you are interested in this commander, in this deck, well, make sure you check out that card list, link in the description below. Now, with all that said, let's jump into it. Let's jump into those tactics. And we're going to start things off with a tactic I am calling Party Starters. That's tactic number 1. And of course, first up, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. That's right, pay 2, tap, sacrifice. Go get a basic land and play tapped. Some great ramp. Speaking of which, we've got Edge of Autumn, basically a rampant growth, which we might get to here in a second. Hey, if you got 4 or fewer lands, it's a rampant growth. Go get a basic and play tapped, or you can cycle it away by sacrificing a land. So later on in the game, if you've got it, as a dead card in your hand, well, just get rid of one of your lands. You've got plenty of ways to get them back. Replace it with something else. Next up, yeah, you guessed it, rampant growth. Yep, go get a basic and play tapped. And then we've got Steve. Poor Steve. I am so sorry, Steve. Steve, you are not long for this world, as always, Steve. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm going to sacrifice you. Basically, you are rampant growth. I am so sorry, Steve. Goodbye. Next up, Cultivate. Get a land into play tapped. Get a land into your hand, both being basics, but still, again, being able to get an extra land in your hand, that is huge with this commander because, again, giving our commander ways to, well, ditch lands can be great. So next up, we've got a way to either ramp or get a land into our hand, or 2, I should say. Journey of Discovery. Search your library for the 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put in your hand, then shuffle your library, or you can play 2 extra lands this turn, and we can entwine it for 3 extra mana. Basically, hey, you know what? Do you need, some lands to chuck at things, with your commander? Great, get them in your hand. Do you have extra lands in your hand you just want to get into play? Great, do that. Do you have enough mana for both? Do both. Moving on. At 3 mana, we also have Search for Tomorrow, but this is actually a great turn 1 ramp spell. So spend 2 for a single green mana. So again, turn 1, that's fantastic. Go to a base land, get into play untapped. Next up, we've got Mina Den Wildborn, a creature that can help us out as well at 4 mana. You can play additional land each of your turns. Again, that's great. We've got plenty of ways to get lands into our hand, plenty of ways to get lands back into our hand, so we get extra lands into play, maybe from our graveyard, etc., like discarding them from our commander. We can also get lands back into our hand with this for our commander. Pay red, green, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Target creature gains trample until end of turn. So a way to actually get damage through a creature potentially, maybe even our commander. But also, more importantly, yeah, bounce lands back to your hand. Be able to do that. Why not? It's absolutely great, so you can chuck more and more lands at creatures. And of course, there's some game-ending plays you can do with that. Finally, we've got Verdict Mastery. A great card that has really been growing on me lately. It is one that you do need to be careful about depending on who you're playing against. And yeah, make sure you pick the right opponent or just cast it for 6. I should probably read it first. Here we go. You cast it for 3 and a green rather than pay its mana cost. So 2 cheaper. Search your library for the 4 basic land cards, reveal them, put 1 of them on the battlefield, tapped, under opponent's control. If the lower cost was paid, you get 2 on the battlefield, tapped to your control, and then shuffle. The rest go in your hand. Sorry, I should have said that. So basically, again, if you pay the full 6, you get 2 in your hand and 2 in play. If you only paid the 4, get 1 in your hand, 2 in play, and your opponent gets 1. So yeah, a great card and one that can help you out in a lot of situations. And again, with this kind of a commander, again, filling your hand with lands is always a good thing. So of course, next up in our next tactic, we're going to be going on to land a hand. Clever, right? Anyways, we've got Nylea's Intervention. This is a flexible card that can help us out in a lot of situations. Choose one. Search life for X land cards, reveal them, put in your hand, then shuffle. This, keep in mind, counts any lands, not just basics. So go get the best lands for the situation that you're in, get them into your hand. And there's some ones that are pretty fantastic with this kind of a commander. And yeah, just fill up your hand with lands that you're eventually going to ditch with your commander, which can be great. Or it can deal twice X damage, to each creature with flying. So yeah, it can very easily take out all the flyers on the board, all those pesky flyers. So again, great in many situations with this commander. And then a much simpler card, not as flexible, but still very good. Seek the Horizon. Search library for 3 lands, put them in your hand, then shuffle. Basically, and sure, but yeah, again, giving your commander, more resources to chuck, or also just ways to hit your land drops, essentially. Yeah, Seek the Horizon can be a great card with this kind of a deck. Now, with this commander, again, there are two different ways that we can actually, get that trigger again, ETB or attack. One of them is a little easier for us to use and abuse when we need to. Of course, the attack can be pretty consistent, but yeah, let's talk about some ways in our next tactic, do that again, to actually, well, get that ETB trigger again. Like, Alchemist Retrieval, a very good blink spell, or not blink spell, sorry, bounce spell. There we go. It's got a cleave cost for 1 and a blue. Basically, it is a 1 mana bounce one of your things spell, a 2 mana bounce an opponent's thing spell. So essentially, hey, you need to get rid of something an opponent has temporarily, play 2 mana, bounce it. You need to bring your commander back to your hand or something else, great. It's a great way to protect your commander or something else, and also a great way, again, to use and abuse that ETB. In an even bigger way, though, we've got Displacement Wave. It's a great board wipe, a way to reset things, and again, a way to get our commander back into our hand. X blue, return all non-land permanents with converted mana cost X less to owner's hands. This can be very flexible, very effective. Again, this can also just be a great situation for our commander to be like, hey, actually, you know what? I'm going to get the attack trigger this time. Okay, I'm going to put, 4 mana into that X, bounce all the small things, get our commander through in combat against an opponent. So again, very flexible, very efficient, very effective. Next up, we've got Geist Wave. This one is very effective as well. Bounce a non-land permanent back to its owner's hand. If you controlled it, you draw that card. So essentially, hey, you know what? I don't really like that permanent you have. I'm going to bounce back to your hand. I don't get to draw, that's fine. But you know what? If I need to bounce my own commander, protect it, or to get that ETB again, great. I get to draw a card as additional benefit. Now, with Into the Royal, though, it doesn't matter what you're bouncing. If you're paying the extra 2, if you're kicking it, you get to draw that card and bounce any non-land permanent. So again, yours and opponents does not matter. Moving on, we've got a Blink Spell Planar Incision. This is fantastic again. Simply 2 mana, hey, get your commander's trigger again, draw that card, and then also potentially discard again lands again. Exile an artifact or creature, bring it back with a counter on it, making it slightly bigger. What's not to love about that? Next up, we've got Siren's Ruse. Unfortunately, our commander's not a pirate, so this is just a simple blink spell. But yeah, it's just a simple blink spell. Unfortunately, yeah, we don't have a Cyclops, homunculus pirate. But that's okay. We just get to pay 2 mana. We get to blink our commander, get that ETB again. Teferi's Time Twist, the next one, though. This one can blink any permanent we control. Again, it's going to come back at the end step. That's great. This can protect from board wipes. This can protect in a lot of situations. If a creature comes back to play, they counter on it, so again, our commander can be bigger. But yeah, again, protect any of our permanents, and yeah, a great way, again, to use and abuse our commander's ETB. Speaking of which, let's draw even more cards off this too. Blur, exile a creature control, return it back to the battlefield under your control, and then also draw a card. So yeah, again, 3 mana, draw 2 cards, because again, our commander's trigger is going to have us draw a card. That is fantastic. And of course, get the ability to, just discard a bunch of lands and punish some creatures. Next up, Displace. We've got creatures also that might, want to be displaced. Maybe we want to save a couple creatures from a situation. Okay, exile up to 2 target creatures you control, return the battlefield under its owner's control. Great, blink it, do it, why not? Moving on, Consuming Tide. Each player chooses a non-land permanent they control. Return all non-land permanents chosen this way to their hands. Then draw a card for each opponent who has more cards in hand than you. So a way to potentially draw some cards, a way to reset things and bounce them, a way to bounce our commander if we need to, or we can choose to keep our commander in play if we say, again, want to attack with our commander. We're like, yeah, let's just keep the commander in play. It's going to be more protected with the attack. A great way to reset things for pretty cheap, again, for just 4 mana. Next up, Jaxus the Troublemaker, a great way to use and abuse the CTB. Pay a red, tap, discard a card, create tokens, copy another target creature you control. It gains haste, and when it dies, draw a card, sacrifice to be the next end step, activate as a sorcery. Basically, 1 mana rummaging effect that essentially is like, hey, you want your commander's ETB again? Yeah, our commander is legendary. We don't get to keep that token around, but we do get that ETB again. Again, 1 mana, draw an extra card on top of that rummaging, and yeah, ping for Lance. Then we've got Aether Gale, another way to bounce things, another way to reset things pretty easily. 5 mana, bounce 6 non-land permanents. Again, one of them can be our commander if we want to use that ETB again, or again, it can just be again completely against one of our opponents. If they've got some blockers up, we say, you know what, I don't like your blockers. Goodbye. So bounce all the blockers and our commander can get through. So again, very helpful in many situations. A great way to throw a wrench into our opponent's plans. Next up, Flame Rush Rider, another way to make a token copy of our commander. It's got a dash cost, so we can actually just get this down surprisingly out of nowhere. Swing with it. Whenever it attacks, get a token that's copied of another target attacking creature that's tapped and attacking, exile at end of combat. So we get our commander's attack trigger. We don't get that token's attack trigger because it comes into play tapped and attacking, but we do get that ETB trigger again. So basically, hey, you want to get 2 triggers in combat? Great. Utilize them, discard a bunch of lands, dish out some damage. In an even bigger way to just, throw some chaos around the board. Hey, a Flood of Tears, let's bounce things again. Return all non-land permanents to owner's hands. If you return 4 more non-token opponents you control this way, you may put a permanent card from your hand on the battlefield. We bounce things. Hey, you know what? Our commander, maybe, if we have 4 more permanents, let's just put our commander back into play. A free way to get that ETB again for extra value, extra damage with those lands. And then finally, when it comes to bouncing, a really big way to do that and a way to just wreck someone's day is River's Rebuke. Return all non-land permanents target player controls back to owner's hand. Now, we're usually not going to target ourselves with this, even though, we could bounce our commander. We're going to target an opponent that is very unlucky, and we're like, hey, yeah, you're way ahead of everyone else. Let's slow you down. Let's slow you down a little bit, get some favor from the rest of the table. Then also, make it easy for you to swing through with your commander as well. A great way to really throw a massive wrench into opponent's plan. Now, another way to really, take advantage of our plan, though, is with our next tactic, which I'm calling Bring It Back. Ways to get our lands back, and we've got plenty of ways to do that. Lands that we're going to be discarding, getting in our graveyard, and also having in play. Bag of Holding is a great one. Whenever you discard a card, exile from your graveyard, we can pay 2 tap to loot, which is nice, or we can pay 4 and tap and sacrifice this to get all those cards exiled with it back into our hand. So again, our commanders can be ditching land after land after land from our hand. This can basically store them up. When we're ready to get them all back, do so in a big way, get again like 20 lands back or whatnot, and then next time we do our commander, oh my goodness, the amount of damage that we can dish out to a creature. And again, there are ways to really take advantage of that damage we'll talk about here in a bit. Moving on, Groundskeeper, a great way to just keep getting those lands back again and again and again. 1 in green, return a basic land from your graveyard to your hand. We got plenty of basics. Again, when we ditch those, we can get those back to our hand just by paying 2 mana each time. Fantastic. We can also get a lot of things back from our graveyard. Pretty much anything we want with Wildest Dreams. XX and a green. We've got plenty of ways to ramp, plenty of ways to put a lot of mana into those X's. Turn X target cards from your graveyard to your hand. Exile this. A great recursion spell. And then we've got another one that is somewhat similar, but random, but fun. Reap the Past. Hit no double X on this one. Just a singular X. Return X cards at random from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Reap the Past. Again, getting a lot of lands back. We're going to have plenty of lands in our graveyard. Get them back in your hand. Do it again with your commander. Can be really fantastic. Moving on, a card that can help us out in multiple ways. Shigeki Jukai Visionary. Pay 1 in a green, tap. Return it to its owner's hand. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put a land card from on the battlefield. The rest in your graveyard. Again, we've got ways to get lands out of our graveyards. Our graveyard back into our hand, back into play potentially. Even we'll talk about those here in a little bit. But yeah, potentially ramping with this. On top of that, pay XX green, discard it. Return X target knowledge creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Kind of again like a Wildest Dreams essentially. A little bit more expensive, but still, yeah, go get a lot of things back out of your graveyard. Non-legendary, yeah, our lands are not legendary, so get those back. Why not? Moving on, we've got ways to get, lands back even from play with Living Twister. 1 in a red, discard a land, it's going to deal 2 damage to any target, so we can just dish out damage with this too if we need to. Pay a green, turn a tap land you control back to its owner's hand. Very easy to tap lands, obviously, so do so. Bring those lands back to your hand, and again, utilize them with your commander. This next one is huge. Slowgurk the Overslime. 3/3 Trampler. Whenever a land is put in your grave from anywhere, you get a counter on this. This can become massive in no time, be a massive heavy hitter for you. Can really take opponents out with this too. By removing 3 counters from it, you bounce this back to its owner's hand, so this can be really hard to deal with. Your opponents are going to have a hard time actually taking this out. On top of that, whenever it leaves the battlefield, return 3 target land cards from your graveyard to your hand. Yes, please. Bring lands back to our hand. Basically, this is a 3-mana kind of like store up counters on it and then utilize that to bring 3 lands back to your hand. Absolutely incredible. Moving on. Speaking of incredible, oh my goodness, this is 1 cent. 1 cent underneath my budget, which I absolutely love. Creeping Renaissance, 99 cents currently. Sorcery for 3, green. Choose a permanent type. Return all cards of the chosen type from your graveyard to your hand, and you can flash it back. We're going to choose lands twice, bringing all of our lands back again. Just having massive plays with our commander. This is huge. Speaking of huge, we can take opponents out with Moloku the Clouded Mirror, a great way to do so. Pay 1, return a land back to someone's hand. Create a 1/1 blue lose creature token. So yeah, bouncing our lands we control back to our hand with this for just a single mana. Again, we can tap the land to do so. Utilize them with our commander, which can be fantastic. And we have plenty of other ways to ramp, plenty of ways to get lands into play, even ways to get lands from our graveyard into play as well. And yeah, also, hey, you know what? We're also making a Flying Illusion Army. Good luck, opponents, with that. Moving on. This one is strange but funny. Pair of Lost Dice. Yep, this Unfended card is great for this kind of a commander. Roll 2 6-sided dice. Return any number of cards with total mana value X or less from your graveyard to your hand, where X is the total of those results. Exile it. So, depending on what you roll, that can impact certain things that you're going to be getting back, but also keep in mind, your lands have a mana value each of 0. So basically, get every single one of your lands from your graveyard back in your hand at instant speed. Fantastic. And then also, whatever you rolled, you can get something else back too, I'm sure. Regardless, a great card for this kind of a deck, and again, quite a strange one. Next up, we've got ways to get lands out of our graveyard. Again, like I talked about, indirectly into play, like Perennial Behemoth. You may play lands from your graveyard. Again, we're going to be ditching a lot of lands with our commander, getting them into our graveyard. Sure, we can just play them from there instead. We can just keep our lands in our hand then, so we just play our land drop for the turn with this out of our graveyard. And this does unearth, so we can get it back from our graveyard as well. And then finally, the Mending of Dominaria. Speaking of getting lands back out, oh my goodness, this can do that and then some. First, second, lower counters, mill 2, then return a creature card from your graveyard to your hand. That's nice. The third one, return all land cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, then shelf your graveyard in your library. A great way to just massively get a ton of lands. Again, we ditch a ton of lands to our graveyard. We get so far ahead of our opponents with this giant ramp effect. It can be absolutely huge. Speaking of huge, though, let's move on to our next tactic, which I'm calling Hit Hard, and hit hard we shall. Oh my goodness, this is so fun with your commander. In equipment, Blazing Sunsteel. That says equip creature has +1/+0 for each opponent you have, so that's just nice. A nice little pump effect there. Not really what we care about. What we care about is whenever equip creature is dealt damage, deals that much damage to any target. Gross. So putting this on a creature means that if we just, utilize our commander's discard effect, we discard land after land after land, we ping that creature that we control for a ton, and then we dish out that damage to the opponent. And there are certain creatures, well, that can take that hit, and others that, well, we can make take that hit essentially. So yeah, a great card for this in a way that we can really finish opponents off. Speaking of which, oh my goodness, Glinthorn Buccaneer. This one is absolutely incredible. Whenever you discard a card, it's going to deal 1 damage to each opponent. This adds up a ton throughout the game. Again, every single time we discard those lands with our commander, we're dealing damage to creatures, again, which we can distribute, with a Blazing Sunsteel or something like that. And then on top of that, yeah, let's say we discarded 5 lands. That's 5 damage each opponent. That's 15 damage in total just for this being in play. And of course, this can also help us loot too, which is nice. Or rummage, I should say. Yeah, a great card for a commander like this. Moving on, Seismic Assault. Hey, do you want like a second copy of your commander like just in play? Sure, great. Seismic Assault's an enchantment that says discard a land card, deals 2 damage to any target. So now we don't even have to utilize our commander's ETB for this. I mean, the ETB is really nice because, again, drawing cards. But yeah, if we just need to utilize this kind of whenever we need to, we can to just dish out 2 damage at a time with our lands. It is fantastic. Next up, Bronze Skyshark Rider. Yep, kind of like another Glinthorn Buccaneer in a way. Whenever you discard a card, you get a counter on this. It deals 1 to each opponent. So this one can get absolutely massive in no time. And on top of that, yeah, dish out a ton of damage throughout the game. Next up, Body of Knowledge. You got to be careful with this one, but it can be huge for you. Power tap is equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size. Whenever it's dealt damage, roll that many cards. So if you can deal damage over time to this, if you can deal damage just pinging it every now and then with your commander, maybe with Seismic Assault, other effects, dish out damage to it, draw cards, get your hand size up, get this to be more powerful, get it to be able to take more hits, essentially. You can draw an absurd amount of cards with this throughout the game. Next up, Brash Taunter. Oh my goodness, this card is just perfect for this commander. Discard lands, ping this, it hurts your opponents. Indestructible whenever it's dealt damage, deals that much damage to target opponent. On top of that, it can fight another target creature, which is great. But yeah, hey, you know what? You're turning that damage from your commander's discard into damage directly to your opponent's faces. I mean, not directly, through this to your opponent's faces. So that can be absolutely huge. Again, throw Blazing Sunsteel on this and basically double that up. Next up, Stuffy Doll. Hey, you know what? A little bit more specific to just one opponent, but that opponent's going to be in big trouble. Then after they're taken out, yeah, you just blink this and do it again to another opponent. So yeah, you have to choose a player. That player's going to be dealt damage. And also this can ping itself for 1. But yeah, again, ways to blink it, ways to reset it, and ways to just say, you know what? You're gone. Let's take care of you now. Or we can just take care of everyone at once with Coal Hauler Swine. Oh my goodness, this is a fun one. Whenever it's dealt damage, deals that much damage to each player. This counts us as well, so keep that in mind. But again, if you've worn your opponents down quite a bit, maybe you've got like Brawlin in play, or if you've got Glenhorn Buccaneer in play and already dealing damage to your opponents and taking them down, you can utilize this as a great finisher to take out everyone else at the exact same time. And of course, again, like I said earlier, we've got ways to save this as well to keep it in play if we need to. And then finally, the OG, Borborygmos and Rage. Yeah, we've got that one as well. 7/6 trampling, deals counter to your player, reveal the top 3 cards of your library. All land cards go into your hand, the rest go into your graveyard. So a way to get a lot of lands off the top of our library into our hand, which is great. More importantly though, discard a land, it deals 3 damage to our creature or player. This is just basically, I'm not going to say a better version of our commander, but a version that we can definitely utilize to dish out even more damage, more effectively, more efficiently. Yeah, we're not getting that ETB or attack card draw, but yeah, we are getting, you know, lands off the top of our library into our hand on hit. So yeah, a way to dish out an absurd amount of damage whenever we need to with our lands. Moving on, though, let's talk about some ways to save some of our key pieces, including our commander if it's in trouble, or again, those creatures that we might want to deal damage to, like Coal Hauler Swine, but we might want to keep them around, or Body of Knowledge. So let's talk about Stay a While. Tactic number 6, Withstand Death is a great card. Instant for a single green mana. Target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. Very simple, very effective. Again, a great way to protect things, and a great way to keep them in play, even if we dish out a ton of damage to them. Next up, Gaia's Gift. Another great one. One more mana, that's okay. Put a +1 counter on target creature you control. It gains reach, trample, and hexproof, indestructible until end of turn. Just a great way to really hyper protect something. Also, yeah, it can be an even better blocker on that turn as well with the reach. And yeah, hexproof, another great way to say, yeah, you're trying to target it, try to take it out. Not happening. So yeah, a great way, a very flexible card that can help us out in a lot of situations. Next up, though, speaking of cards that can help us out, let's talk about some cards that actually go get those fantastic creatures that we can really do some massive plays with. So let's move on to Creature Feature is going to be tactic number 7. I almost slipped over the words there. Creature Feature. Signal the Clan's the first one. Instant for red-green, just 2 mana. Search your library for 3 creature cards and reveal them. If you reveal 3 cards with different names, choose one of them at random, put that one in your hand, and shuffle the rest of your library. Yeah, we're in Commander. We have cards with different names. That's great. We've got, again, a lot of great creatures that we can go get with this. Yeah, we're going to get a random one, but again, if you go get Brash Taunter and Stuffy Doll, etc., yeah, you're bound to hit one of the ones you want anyways. So yeah, utilize this again. Fantastic in-speed 2 mana tutor spell to go get some creatures that you need. Speaking of which, Threats Undetected. Sorcery for 2 and a green, just 3 mana. Search your library for 4 creature cards with different names, or sorry, different powers, and reveal them. And opponent chooses 2 of those cards. Shove the cards in your library with the rest in your hand. You might have noticed that we've got a lot of different creatures with different powers actually on the ones that I just went over with. Yeah, Stuffy Doll again, 0 power. Brash Taunter, 1 power. Coal Hauler Swine, 4 power. Brawler, I think, is at 3. Glinthorn's at 2. We've got a lot of different creatures with different powers. This is 3 mana. Again, go get 2 at random, essentially, but hey, get 2 that you really want to utilize again in combination with your commander. Moving on, Primal Command, another great tutor effect. That's very flexible. Sorcery, choose 2. Target player gains 7 life. That's nice. Put target non-creature permanent on top of someone's library. That can be a great way to stall someone with this as well. Target player shuffles their grave in your library. A great way to reset someone, especially like a self-mill player, especially with, you know, a reanimate player. Most importantly, though, search life for a creature card, reveal it in your hand, then shuffle. So yeah, go get one of those key creatures, that Stuffy Doll, that, you know, Brash Taunter, go get it in your hand. Or maybe go get this next creature, which is going to be the Golden Pig of this deck. That's right, tactic number 8, the Golden Pig. We've got a card that, in my opinion, out of the 99, is above all others. And that card is Riel the Everwise. And I mess up the name, of course, on the Golden Pig. 0/3 Human Wizard for 1 blue red. It's going to get +1/+0 for each instant source card in your graveyard. So that's nice. More importantly, though, whenever you discard one or more cards for the first time each turn, draw that many cards. This replaces your giant discards with your commander. Yeah, you're like, okay, I'll blink my commander, comes back into play. Okay, I'll draw a card. I'll discard 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever it is, land cards. Cool. I'll ping, you know, my creature. It's pinged you in the face. Oh, and by the way, I get to replace all those cards. I get to draw that many cards off the top of my library that I discarded. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely fantastic. You can take advantage of this on every single turn. Again, it says, discard one or more cards first time each turn, not just on your turn. So if you're blinking your commander or your opponent's turns, take advantage of that too. This can refill your hand. It can just make things absolutely incredible. A great card in this deck. And yeah, definitely in my opinion, the Golden Pig. Yeah, it can really power you through the game. But of course, we're not done with drawing cards just yet. So let's move on to the next tactic, which is tactic number 9, which I'm calling Dig Deep, and dig deep we shall. So first up, we've got Read the Runes, a great card. Instant for X and a blue. Draw X cards for each card drawn this way. Discard a card, sacrifice a permanent. Yeah, discarding cards is not a bad thing for this deck. There's ways to take advantage of it again, like I just talked about the Golden Pig or Brawlin, etc., etc. Also, getting lands into our graveyard might not be a bad thing as well if we've got ways to set ourselves up again to get them out of our graveyard, back into our hand, etc., etc. And also, if we do need to sacrifice some things to keep more cards, we can do that as well. Next up, one that doesn't require sacrificing and just a little bit of discarding. Pull from tomorrow, draw X card, discard 1 card. Very efficient, very effective. Next up, Diviner's Portent. This one requires no discarding at all. Roll a d20, add the number of cards in your hand, draw X cards if it's a 1 through 14, scry X, then draw X if it's 15 plus. Yeah, great value either way, especially if we hit that 15 plus. Scrying X first, then drawing as many. That's pretty fantastic. And speaking of fantastic, even the score can be even better. If an opponent draws a lot of cards in a turn, the spell's going to cost blue, blue, blue. If an opponent has drawn 4 more cards, which happens all the time in Commander, this is basically a free spell. I mean, the blue, blue, blue's gone. The generic mana is still there for the X. But yeah, draw X cards. Just, hey, pay 1 mana for a card, draw it instant speed. Absolutely fantastic. Next up, an enchantment that can really help us out, though. Abundance. Enchantment, if you would draw a card, you can instead choose land or non-land, basically reveal it until you hit one of those, essentially. So you're like, oh yeah, I'd like lands to fill up my hand for my commanders. Trigger, great, let's go get those. Or you know what, I've got enough lands, let's get some non-lands, go get those as well. Also a great way to protect yourself from milling. You cannot mill with this card. I mean, you can have no library, but you don't lose because you're replacing your draw with this too. So keep that in mind. And you very well might mill, you know, if you got Riel, if you got all these other things. And also, Thought Reflection, a great card in this deck. If you draw a card, draw 2 cards instead. First up, doubling up your commander's trigger, doubling 2 cards, or drawing 2 cards, you know, not doubling the entire trigger, but drawing 2 cards. That's great, a lot of extra value. And doubling up any other draw sources as well. I mean, just think about this in combination with Riel. Oh, gross. So yeah, a great card for a deck like this. Now that we talked about all the non-lands, though, let's quickly talk about some of the lands that I want to highlight on this deck. And my next tactic just landed. And the lands I'm going to highlight are, well, these simple bounce lands. These can be very effective with this kind of a commander, like Gruul Turf. Hey, yeah, when it enters battlefield, enters tapped, bounce 1 land back to your hand, and it taps for 2 colors. Great, fantastic. Being able to bounce lands back to our hand again can be crucial for our commander, keeping the land number in our hand pretty high. Being able to discard cards again, it's great. So yeah, we are running all 3 of those guild lands that we have access to with these colors. And also even Guildless Commons. Yeah, another great bounce land. One that, yeah, doesn't fix our mana. We've got plenty of other ways to fix our mana, though. Still taps for 2 colorless, though. But again, being able to bounce a land back to our hand can be huge. So yeah, these are great. But yeah, overall, a very exciting commander. I love this team-up combination. Borborygmos and Fblthp is just hilarious and awesome, and it's a really exciting commander. Again, if you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that deck list link in the description below. Comment below and let me know your thoughts are on it. And of course, as always, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.